The Great Deception, the Xanthari fleet appeared in Earth's skies on a Tuesday morning. Massive crystalline ships that gleamed like broken glass against the blue sky, their presence casting shadows over entire cities. There were 47 of them, each one larger than Earth's biggest space station. They came without warning, without negotiation. Without mercy, Captain Sarah Chen watched the news feeds from her small apartment in Neo-Tokyo, her coffee growing cold in her hands. The alien vessels hung motionless above major population centers, their message simple and direct. It played simultaneously across every communication device on the planet, translated into every human language. People of Earth, you will surrender. Your planet within 72 hours. Any resistance will result in total elimination. This is your only warning. Sarah's hands trembled slightly. 3 months ago, she had been Earth's youngest fleet strategist, designing defense protocols for scenarios just like this. Then came the budget cuts, the political reshuffling, and suddenly her aggressive defense strategies were deemed too expensive and unrealistic. They had discharged her quietly, along with hundreds of other military personnel who had dared to prepare for the worst. Now the worst had arrived, and Earth's official response was swift and predictable. Within 6 hours, the United Earth Council had drafted a surrender document. Within 12 hours, it was signed by every major world leader. Within 18 hours, human military forces across the globe began standing down, their weapons systems deactivating, their personnel reporting to designated areas for peaceful transition protocols. The speed of the surrender shocked everyone. News anchors struggled to maintain composure as they announced humanity's capitulation. Protesters filled the streets briefly before being dispersed by their own governments. The message was clear. Resistance meant death, and death meant the end of the human species. But Sarah Chen knew something the protesters didn't know, something the news anchors didn't know, something even most world leaders didn't know. The surrender was fake. Her encrypted communicator buzzed at exactly midnight, 3 days after the alien arrival. A single message: Project Silent Watch is active. Coordinates attached. Come alone. Sarah's heart raced. Project Silent Watch had been her brainchild, developed in secret during her final months of service. When the military brass had rejected her defense proposals, calling them fantasy scenarios for imaginary threats, she had taken them underground. Along with a small group of like-minded officers, they had begun preparing for what everyone else refused to believe could happen. The coordinates led her to an abandoned warehouse in the industrial district. As she approached, Sarah noticed the subtle signs that told her she was in the right place. The building looked derelict, but the security cameras were too new, too well hidden. The rust on the metal doors was too uniform, too fresh. She knocked 3 times, paused, then twice more. The door opened silently. "Welcome back, Captain," said a familiar voice. Admiral Marcus Webb stepped out of the shadows, his weathered face split by a grim smile. Webb had been Sarah's mentor before his retirement. 6 months ago, like her. He had been quietly pushed aside when his warnings about alien threats became too inconvenient. The warehouse was not empty. As Sarah's eyes adjusted to the dim lighting, she saw dozens of people moving purposefully through the space. Former military personnel, discharged scientists, redundant engineers. All the people Earth's leaders had deemed unnecessary now worked with focused intensity. "How long have you been planning this?" Sarah asked. Webb gestured for her to follow him deeper into the building. "The surrender, about 2 years. We knew this day would come eventually. The question was never if we would be invaded, but when, and more importantly, how we would respond. They descended a staircase that shouldn't have existed, leading to levels that weren't on any building plan. The underground facility stretched far beyond the warehouse footprint, clearly the result of months of secret construction. The public surrender was phase 1, Webb explained as they walked through corridors filled with advanced equipment. Every government on Earth played their part perfectly. The aliens think they won without firing a shot. They think humanity is weak, disorganized, cowardly. They're about to learn how wrong they are. Sarah stopped walking. You're telling me that every world leader knew about this plan? Not every leader, just enough to make it work. The ones who refused to cooperate found themselves suddenly facing corruption, scandals, or health crises that forced them to step down. Democracy is wonderful, but sometimes you need people in charge who understand the survival trumps politics. They entered a massive underground chamber, and Sarah's breath caught in her throat. The space was filled with spacecraft unlike anything she had ever seen. Sleek, dark vessels that seemed to absorb light rather than reflect it. They were smaller than the Xanthari ships, but radiated a sense of deadly purpose. 43 vessels, Webb said proudly. Built over the past 18 months using technology we developed specifically for this scenario. Stealth capabilities beyond anything the aliens can detect. Weapon systems designed to exploit the weaknesses in crystalline hull structures. And crews made up entirely of people the world forgot about. Dr. Alina Vasquez approached them, her eyes bright with excitement. Sarah remembered Alina from the old days. A brilliant weapons engineer who had been transferred to civilian research when her designs were deemed too destructive. Sarah, perfect timing. We just finished the final calibrations on the cloaking systems. The alien sensors are incredibly advanced, but they're designed to detect traditional metal hulls and electromagnetic signatures. Our ships use quantum phase materials that exist slightly outside normal space-time. To their instruments, we're ghosts. Sarah walked among the ships, running her hand along the strange, smooth surfaces. The material felt warm, almost alive. How is this possible? Where did you get the resources? The funding, Webb chuckled. When the world's military budgets got slashed, a lot of money disappeared into black projects that officially never existed. Turns out, several governments were hedging their bets. They publicly cut defense spending while secretly funding contingency plans. This is humanity's real defense force. A young man approached their group, his face flushed with excitement. Commander Jake Morrison had been Sarah's top fighter pilot before his disciplinary discharge for refusing to participate in political ceremonies instead of combat training. Captain Chen, they've assigned me to lead the fighter squadrons. 72. Single pilot interceptors, each one capable of taking out ships 10 times their size. The aliens won't know what hit them. Sarah felt a mixture of pride and terror. These were her people, the ones who had been cast aside for being too prepared, too aggressive, too unwilling to pretend that humanity was safe in a dangerous universe. Now they were Earth's last hope, and possibly its greatest weapon. When do we strike? She asked. Webb checked his chronometer. The aliens begin their pacification protocols tomorrow at dawn. That's when they'll start establishing control zones and resource extraction points. They'll be focused on logistics, not defense. The perfect time to show them what humans do. When someone threatens our home. Over the following hours, Sarah learned the full scope of Project Silent Watch. The surrendering militaries weren't actually surrendering, they were repositioning. Equipment that appeared to be deactivated was actually being hidden in strategic locations. Personnel who seemed to be reporting for internment were actually taking up positions for a coordinated resistance effort. The aliens had superior technology, but they had made one crucial mistake. They had believed humanity's public face was humanity's true face. They saw the quick surrender, the apparent cowardice, the lack of organized resistance, and concluded that humans were weak. They had no idea that beneath the surface, the most dangerous members of the species were preparing for war. Asterisk, as dawn approached, Sarah stood in the command center, watching real-time feeds of the alien ships beginning their descent toward major population centers. The Zenthari had waited exactly 72 hours, as promised. They were punctual, arrogant, and completely unprepared for what was about to happen. "All ships report ready," came the voice of the communications officer. "Shadow Fleet is prepared to launch." Webb turned to Sarah. "Captain, you developed the tactical framework that made this possible. The honor should be yours. Give the command." Sarah looked at the displays showing Earth's major cities, filled with innocent people who had gone to sleep believing their planet had been conquered. They were about to wake up to discover that humanity had one more card to play. She activated the fleet-wide communications system. "All ships, this is Captain Chen. For 3 days, the galaxy has believed that Earth fell without a fight. Today, we show them that humans don't surrender. We don't kneel, and we sure as hell don't give up our home to anyone. Shadow Fleet, launch for Earth." Asterisk, the Shadow strikes. The first phase of the attack was silence. 43 Shadow Fleet vessels rose from their hidden positions simultaneously from underground caverns, from beneath lakes and oceans, from hollowed-out mountains and abandoned industrial complexes. Their quantum phase cloaking systems rendered them invisible to alien sensors, while their specialized hull materials made them undetectable to conventional observation. Captain Sarah Chen stood on the bridge of the lead vessel, the Defiant Dawn, watching the tactical displays as her fleet moved into position. The Zenthari ships continued their descent toward major population centers, completely unaware that they were now surrounded by an enemy they couldn't see. "All ships are in position." "Captain," reported Lieutenant Torres, the communications officer. "Enemy vessels maintaining predictable descent patterns. They're not even running defensive scans." Sarah nodded grimly. The aliens' arrogance was about to become their greatest weakness. They had expected no resistance from a species that had surrendered so quickly, so they had committed to a peaceful occupation rather than a military conquest. It was the kind of tactical error that could end civilizations. "Dr. Vasquez' status on the weapon systems?" Sarah asked. Elena's voice came through the intercom from the engineering deck. "All particle lances are charged and ready. The crystalline disruptor torpedoes are armed and awaiting your command. I have to say, Captain, I never thought I'd get to test these weapons on actual alien hulls. The theoretical models suggest they'll tear through their ships like paper, through the bridge windows." Sarah could see the largest Zenthari vessel beginning to hover over Neo-Tokyo. It was a massive thing, easily 3 kilometers long, its crystalline surface refracting sunlight into brilliant rainbow patterns, beautiful and terrifying in equal measure. In a few minutes, it would begin deploying occupation forces to the city below. It would never get the chance. "Jake, are your fighters ready?" Sarah asked through the communications system. Commander Morrison's voice crackled with excitement from the fighter bay. 72 birds are prepped and ready to fly, Captain. My pilots are chomping at the bit. We've been training for this scenario for months, running simulations against crystalline hull structures. The aliens won't know what hit them. Sarah took a deep breath. Everything they had worked for, everything they had sacrificed for, came down to the next few moments. If they failed, humanity would face genuine extinction. If they succeeded, they would prove that humans were far more dangerous than the galaxy suspected. All ships, all fighters, this is Captain Chen. Commence Operation Shadow Strike. Show them what happens when someone threatens Earth. Attack. The first salvo came from the defiant Dawn herself. 3 particle lance beams, invisible to the naked eye, but devastating in their power, struck the largest Centauri vessel along its central crystalline spine. The alien ship's beautiful, refractive hull cracked like glass, atmosphere venting into space in brilliant blue streams. The aliens' response was immediate confusion. Alarms began blaring from their vessels as they tried to identify the source of the attack. Their sensors detected nothing. Their visual scanners saw empty space, but their ships were dying around them, across Earth's skies. 42 other Shadow Fleet vessels opened fire simultaneously. Particle beams and disruptor torpedoes struck Centauri ships that were completely unable to defend against enemies they couldn't detect. The crystalline hulls that made their vessels so beautiful also made them incredibly vulnerable to the specific frequency weapons Dr. Vasquez had designed. Direct hit on the command vessel over Beijing, reported the tactical officer. Their shield systems are failing. Hull breaches on multiple decks. Sydney target is showing massive structural damage, came another report. They're attempting emergency ascent, but taking heavy fire. Sarah watched the tactical display as red icons representing alien vessels began to blink yellow, then red, indicating severe damage. The perfect, orderly descent of the Centauri fleet had become chaos in under 3 minutes. But the aliens weren't completely helpless. Captain, incoming transmission on all frequencies, Lieutenant Torres announced. It's from the alien fleet. Commander, put it through. The voice that filled the bridge was deep, resonant, and filled with a mixture of confusion and growing anger. Unknown attackers, reveal yourselves. Face us with honor rather than hiding like cowards. Your sneak attack violates all civilized rules of warfare. Sarah almost laughed. The beings who had threatened to exterminate humanity were complaining about unfair fighting. She activated the response system. Centauri Fleet, this is Captain Sarah Chen of the Earth Defense Force. You gave us 72 hours to surrender. We used those 72 hours to prepare a proper welcome. Consider this Earth's official response to your ultimatum. There was a long pause before the alien commander responded, his voice now carrying a note of what sounded like respect. Humans, you deceived us. Your surrender was false. Our surrender was strategy, Sarah replied. You assumed that a quick capitulation meant weakness. You forgot to ask yourselves why a species capable of space travel would give up without a fight. You forgot that sometimes the smartest move is to let your enemy believe they've already won. The Centauri fleet began attempting to return fire, but their weapons were designed for planetary bombardment and large-scale naval combat. They couldn't target enemies they couldn't detect, and their massive, slow-moving vessels made perfect targets for the smaller, more agile Shadow Fleet ships. Jake Morrison's fighter squadrons joined the battle, 72 sleek interceptors materializing, as if from nowhere, around the alien vessels. The fighters were tiny compared to the Centauri ships, but they moved like angry wasps, striking at critical systems and communication arrays. This is Morrison to all fighters. Jake's voice came through the communications system. Remember, they're big, but they're not invincible. Target the crystalline connection points. That's where their structural integrity is weakest. Show them what Earth's finest can do. The battle became a demonstration of human ingenuity versus alien overconfidence. The Zenthari had superior individual vessels, but they had prepared for a rockupation, not a war. Their ships carried construction equipment, administrative systems, and peacekeeping forces. The Shadow Fleet carried nothing but weapons and the will to use them. Dr. Vasquez's voice came through the intercom again, barely containing her excitement. Captain, the crystalline disruptor torpedoes are working even better than predicted. Their whole material is actually amplifying the frequency disruption across their entire ship structure. It's like hitting a crystal glass with a tuning fork. The vibrations are tearing them apart from the inside. Sarah watched as another Zenthari vessel broke apart, its beautiful crystalline hull shattering like a cathedral window. There was something almost sad about destroying something so magnificent, but she pushed the thought aside. These beings had come to commit genocide. Beauty didn't excuse that. Captain, we're receiving multiple distress calls from the alien fleet, Lieutenant Torres reported. Several ships are requesting permission to withdraw from Earth's space. Sarah considered for a moment. The tactical part of her mind said to press the advantage, to destroy every alien vessel while they had the chance. But another part of her remembered that humans were supposed to be better than their enemies. Open a channel to the alien fleet commander, she ordered. Asterisk, the same deep voice responded, but now it carried notes of defeat and, surprisingly, admiration. Human commander, we acknowledge our error. Your species is far more formidable than our intelligence indicated. We did not expect such strategic deception or technological capability. Then you learned something today, Sarah replied. The question is, what happens next? Do you want to continue this fight, or do you want to reconsider your approach to humanity? There was a long pause, during which several more alien vessels took critical damage from ongoing Shadow Fleet attacks. Finally, the Zenthari commander spoke again. We propose a cessation of hostilities. We will withdraw from Earth's space and reconsider our assessment of human civilization. Your people have demonstrated that they deserve a different kind of contact. Sarah looked around the bridge at her. Crew, former military personnel who had been cast aside, scientists who had been ignored, engineers who had been told their ideas were too dangerous. Now they had saved their entire species through careful planning and sheer determination. Zenthari fleet, you have 1 hour to withdraw from Earth's space. Any vessel remaining after that time will be considered hostile and treated accordingly. And Commander, the next time someone threatens our home, remember this day. Remember that humans don't surrender. We adapt, we plan, and we fight back. Over the following hour, the remaining Zenthari vessels limped away from Earth, their crystalline hulls scarred and their pride shattered. The Shadow Fleet maintained their positions, cloaked and watchful, until the last alien ship disappeared into hyperspace as the immediate threat ended. Sarah realized that this was only the beginning. Word would spread across the galaxy that humanity was not the weak, easily conquered species they appeared to be. Earth would face new challenges, new opportunities, and new dangers, but they would face them as they had always faced the impossible. Together, clever, and absolutely refusing to give up. Admiral Webb's voice came through the communication system from the command center. Shadow Fleet, this is Control. Outstanding work, people. Earth is secure. stand down to alert status and prepare for debriefing. Today, you proved that humanity belongs among the stars, not as subjects, but as equals. Sarah looked out at the blue earth below, its cities intact, its people safe, its future secured by those who had refused to accept defeat. The galaxy had expected Earth to fall. Instead, they had discovered that humans were much more dangerous than anyone imagined, and that was exactly the reputation they needed to survive among the stars.